This glacier over the last 3 years has been melting faster than ever recorded.
Water is life, and there's a group at the University of Saskatchewan that has been researching water security in Canada. Professor Helen Baulch specializes in the area of water security and water quality. She says, as Canadians, we like to think of ourselves as water secure, but she has some concerns, especially on the prairies.
But in the prairies, we know that's not the case because we know the stories of flood and drought, and frequently natural disasters in Canada center on the prairies, with some of the most expensive natural disasters in Canadian history.
Baulch says the prairies switch from wet to dry so quickly, and it creates challenges for agriculture and communities. Her comments coincide with a report on water security put out by Global Water Futures.
What we anticipate for the future is really an amplification of some of those extremes. So greater drought risk, potentially longer and more severe droughts and floods. And we see water quality challenges also adding into the mix. So creating increased risk of harmful cyanobacterial blooms or algal blooms that, many of us have seen in prairie lakes.
Baulch sees the prairies becoming a much warmer place in the next 60 years with the effects of climate change.
One of the things we see changing most rapidly is the winter conditions. So, for example, in the last 60 years, we've had about a 3-degree warming of our winters. And when you think about where our water comes from in the prairies, most of the water actually comes from snow and ice. So in the form of melt from the glaciers or runoff from winter conditions, we don't get that much rain.
Global Water Futures is playing host to a conference on May 14th to the 17th in Saskatoon with discussions on how water quality is changing.
There's a public lecture, video presentation, and panel discussion on May 14th. So hopefully we'll have a good dialogue about where we're at in terms of water in the prairies, and some of the key questions and next steps.
Baulch says researchers are working on solutions, including changes in soil moisture, which have implications for farmers. Global Water Futures will continue its work with communities and policymakers at having the dialogue to adapt to environmental changes.
We may take water for granted and turn on our taps and have safe drinking water, but first off, that's not the case for all residents of the prairies.
Gerard Lampow, Primetime Local News.